Hello everyone. This will be our final lecture for our data structures class, and this lecture will be working with directed graphs or graphs in general. So one of the main uses of graphs would be for plotting out an airline route map. So for example, this shows you which planes can fly from which airport. So from Toronto, I can fly to Minneapolis, Sudbury, Ottawa, Rochester, Buffalo. So essentially, if I live in Toronto, I can go to any of these places. Whereas if I live in somewhere far away, like let's say Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, I can go to, let's say, Rochester. I'll have to go through multiple different airports at a time. So there are different airports which represent stops on my route towards my destination, which is Rochester. So that's one example of using a graph. Another relevant example of graphs would be your prerequisite graphs for your program. So for example, you can't go into programming 2 or programming 2 if you haven't taken up 1101 because it's a prerequisite. 1101 is also a prerequisite for IM1, Web Dev 1, and so on and so forth. So this is an example of a directed graph or a digraph because there is a flow of direction from one program to another or one node to another. We'll call them nodes for now, but actually in the next slide we will see what they're actually called. So we go on to the graph itself. So a graph is by definition a finite set of points called vertices or nodes. So each point inside your graph, like for example these ones, Toronto, Ottawa, Rochester, Buffalo, they are all what we call vertices or nodes. For the sake of differentiation between other data structures, let's call them vertices moving forward. So a graph is a finite set of points called vertices or nodes. So that's the first thing we need to consider a data structure, a graph. You need to have vertices or nodes. So in this illustration, we have four vertices, P1, P2, P3, and P4. Next, those vertices have to be paired with a finite set of edges as well. And these edges are what join a pair of vertices. So an edge is a line going from one vertex to another vertex. And the edge is what joins a pair of vertices. So in this specific illustration, our graph has four vertices, P1, P2, P3, and P4, and it has six edges or six lines. A line from P1 to P2, from P1 to P3, from P1 to P4. As you can see, it's denoted by P1, P2, P1, P3, P1, P4. We also have lines from P2 to P3, P2 to P4, and we also have lines from P3 to P4. Now you'll notice I didn't actually say line from P3 to P1 and P3 to P2 anymore because technically they are already there. Because you can just rearrange the order by which you represent the edge. So P1 and P1 to P2 is just the same as P2 to P1 in a graph. So other examples of a graph is I have a graph with four vertices, P1, P2, P3, and P4. My edges are P1 to P2, P2 to P4, and P4, P3, as you can see. Same with this one, I have a graph of three vertices from P2 to P1 and P1 to P3. And this is also considered a graph. You have two vertices connected by your edge from P1 to P2. So what is a complete graph? A graph is considered to be complete if each pair of vertices on your graphs are joined by an edge. So if nagani line going from one vertex to another, and it goes through all of the vertices, like for example, P1 goes to P3, P2, and P4 directly, and there is a direct path from one vertex to another for all of the vertices, then that is considered to be a complete graph. So the key word here is there has to be an edge from one vertex to all the other vertices. So a direct edge, so from P4 to P1 there is an edge, P4 to P2 there is an edge, P4 to P3 there is an edge. So there is a single line path to all of the vertices from P4. Same with P3, I have a P3 to P4, P3 to P1, P3 to P2. From P2, I have also a line going to each of the vertices, and P1 also has an edge going to each of the vertices. So this graph is considered to be complete. So for our first exercise, consider that we have an activity on CSIT week wherein we have a bowling competition, and we want to represent that there were 7 different teams in that competition. And then we have the following situations based on the competition wherein the teams have played against each other. How would you represent that as a graph? So very simple. Let's represent the team as a vertex. So we have teams 1 until team 7. So let's recreate this specific example by drawing 7 different teams as vertices. So T4, we have T5, we have T6, and we have T7. How would we represent this graph? Very easy. So it says that T1 has played T2, T3, and T5. So that means there has to be an edge going from T1 going to 2, 3, and 5. So in our drawing, that would just mean T1 to T2, T1 to T3, and T1 to T5. So let's just make it prettier by doing something like this. T2 has played T1, T3, and T5. So T2 has already aligned to T1, so that's good. How about to 3 and 5? We don't have that, so let's draw the relationship. So T2 has played T1 and T5 and T3. T3 has played T1, T2, and T4. So T1, T2, and T4. T4 has played T3 and T7. So I already have an edge going from T4 to T3. So let's go an edge to T7. T5 has played with T1 and T2, and that's already represented in the graph already. T6 has withdrawn from the game, so he hasn't played anyone. So loner lang ni siya, nagchar-char lang na siya diha, doing nothing in his life. T7 has played T4. T7 has played T4. So this specific drawing is what represents the entire graph. Now, it doesn't always have to look like this. As long as there is an edge connecting the vertices of the players or teams that have played with each other, then that is considered to be correct. So in the wonderful slides of Ma'am Peña, this is what her slides look like. T1 played with T2, T3, T5. T1 has played with T2, T3, and T5. So it's almost the same. Actually, layo ra bitaw gid sila og naong. But you'll notice that the vertices are the same. I would argue mine looks prettier, but I might just be biased. Just kidding. Peace, Ma'am P. So anyways, let's go back. Sa yun ra kayo siya nga activity, you just had to draw this specific graph. Now, what comes next? So what information can you get from the graph obtained in number 1? The easiest information you can get is you will know which teams played with each other. I know that T1 only played with T5, T2, and T3. I know that T2 only played with T5, T1, and T3. I know that T6 didn't play with anyone because they withdrew, and so on. So, mora na tong info nga makuha from this specific drawing. The next question goes, is the information determined from the graph enough to know the winner of the bowling league? Bowling de ang giduwa. Bowling gidi ay. So, is it enough information? The answer is wala. We don't actually know who won. We just know that T1 played with T5, T2, and T3, but we don't know the winner. So, this specific implementation of the graph is very useful if you just want to know relationships between different vertices, only generic information like if they are connected with each other or have a specific relationship. Now, if we want to know more, if we want to garner more information, this just doesn't cut it. Which is why we introduced the concept of the digraph or the directed graph. So a directed graph or a digraph is similar to the regular graph. It is still a finite set of points called vertices or nodes, and they also have a finite set of directed edges or arcs. So the key word here is directed, meaning naa na siya'y direction, or in our visualization, it essentially means naa na'y arrow. So when you have a directed edge, you can also start calling them arcs. So to recap, if you just have a line going from P1 to P2 or any vertex A to vertex B, if you have a line with no arrow, that's just called an edge. If it becomes a directed edge or an edge or a line with an arrow, it can also now be called as an arc. So that we just remain consistent, I'm going to start calling it an arc moving forward. So, you have a finite set of points called vertices or nodes together with a finite set of arcs, each of which will join an ordered pair of distinct vertices. There is a keyword here, ordered pair. So that means mumatter na ang order by which we actually compare the vertices. For example, right now we have P1, P2, P3, and P4. Those are our vertices. In the previous slides, we mentioned that it doesn't matter if you say P1 is connected to P2 or P2 is connected to P1 because there is no direction in that graph. But when we have a directed graph with arcs, the ordering now matters between the different vertices. So when you say there is an arc from P1 to P2, that means there is an arrow going from P1 going to P2. So in this specific digraph, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 edges, or arcs rather. And the arcs are going from P1 to P2, P1 to P3, P2 to P3, P3 to P4, and P4 to P1, as well as P4 to P2. And you will notice that they are written in ordered pair format. And the P1, or the first one, I'll tell you the name of this, it's called the tail. The tail of your arc is what comes first, followed by the head of your arc, which is the arrow. So an arc in a digraph, a directed edge or an arc is an ordered pair of vertices, VW, where V is considered to be the tail of the arc and W is the head of the arc. Para di mo maglibog, an ordered pair is just two different vertices, like so, P1 and P2. So think of VW as just generic variable names. It's just the same as this P1 and P2, where the V is always the tail and W is the head. So in the illustration, your V is where your arc originates from, and your W is where your arc points to, or where your arc ends. So the notation V points to W just means that W is adjacent to V. So other examples of the digraph, we have this example. We have P1, P2, P3, and P4. P1 points to P2, P1 points to P4. So that means there should be an ordered pair going from P1 to P2 and P1 to P4. And you will see in this list of arcs, you'll notice there's a P1 to P2, P1 to P4. Next, P2 points to P1, so there is an ordered pair from P2 to P1. Let's go to P3. P3 doesn't point to anything. Therefore, there is no arc from P3 to anything. P4 points to P2 and P3. Therefore, there should be an arc from P4 to P2 and P4 to P3, which is represented here. The same thing applies to these other graphs. I think you guys already get the point, because P4 is the one that's pointing to P1, P2, and P3. It is always the tail, so all of the ordered pairs in the arcs will always start with P4. So take a look. P4 to P1, P4 to P2, P4 to P3. Let's skip. You guys already understand that for sure. So to continue this exercise, why don't we convert this specific problem into a digraph? So now that I know that T1 has defeated T2, T5, and lost to T3, we can update our graph to describe the above situation, such that in teams TI and TJ, if TI points to TJ, that just means that the TI defeats TJ. Ang pasabot ana, the tail is the winner and the head is the loser. So remember, tail and head. The tail is the winner, the head is the loser. So if T1 has defeated T2 and T5, that means T1 is the tail and T2 is the head. So magbutang rata og arrow. There, perfect. And then they lost to the team 3. So ang connection from team 3 should be pointing to T1. T2 has defeated Team 5. So si T2 nakapildi ni Team 5. So let's put an arrow going there. And lost to T1 and T3. So I lost to T3. So that means I have an arrow pointing to me. Joke, wrong. It should be this one. T2 lost to T3, so there is an arrow from T3 going to T2. T3 defeated T1 and T2, so there should be an arrow from T3 to T1 and T2. That is correct. And lost to Team 4, so napildi siya ni Team 4. So that means T4 should have an arrow to T3. Perfect. Team 4 has defeated Team 3, which is correct, and lost to Team 7. So because they lose, there is an arrow going to Team 4 from Team 7. Team 5 has lost to Team 1, correct? Because Team 5 is the head, this is the tail. So T1 beat T5, or T5 lost to T1. And also lost to T2, which is this representation. T6 has withdrawn from the game, so naara na siya diha, very lonely. And T7 has defeated Team 4, which is what is represented here. So this is the answer to exercise 2. And just to remind you, for a case of confidence, your drawing doesn't have to look like this. As long as the arrows are correct, your drawing will be correct. So, the path of a digraph. So, a path in a digraph is just a sequence of vertices, V1, V2, until Vn, such that V1 goes to V2, V2 goes to V3, V3 goes to Vn minus 1, and Vn goes to Vn. And all of those different relationships are essentially arcs in the digraph. So, from the answer of exercise 2, we will look for paths from T7 to T2. Let's not look at this first. Let's just look at the paths from T7 to T2. Ang pasabot ana is, starting from T7, how many routes or paths can I take to go to this specific node? So let's try to start with the first. So from T7 to T4 to T3 to T2, that is one path. From T7 to T4 to T3 to T1, and then going to T2, that's another path. Is there still another path? Let's try. T7 to T4 to T3 to T1. If we go to T5, there's no more way to T2. So wala na. There are only two paths. So the paths are T7 to T4, T4 to T3, T3 to T1, and T1 to T2, which we represented a while ago, from 7, 4, 3, 1, 2, and 7, 4, 3, 2. 7, 4, 3, 2. Muna siya itong path of a digraph. The length of the path is essentially the number of arcs on the path. So, igo rata mag-count og mga lines. So, from T7 to T2 using the T1 route, we count 1, 2, 3, 4. From T7 to T2 using the T3 route, it's 1, 2, 3. So, the length of the paths are 4 and 3. There is a special case which is the path of length 0, which is the path from the vertex V to itself. So there is a path from T7 to itself, and the path length is 0. So we go on to more definitions. Simple path. A path is considered simple if all of the vertices on the path, except possibly the first and the last, are distinct. So the path from T7 to T2 is considered to be simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is considered simple because all of the vertices in that path are unique. The moment magbalik-balik gani ang imuhang vertex or you go back to a specific vertex, that removes the simplicity of the path and it's no longer considered to be simple. A simple cycle is a simple path that begins and ends at the same vertex. So if there is a path from vertex A to vertex A, that means there is a simple cycle. And it has to be a simple path. So for example, the path from P1 to P1, going from 3 to 2 to 1, is considered to be a simple cycle. I'm going from P1 to P3, P3 to P2, P2 to P1. Additionally, pwede po siya nga, sorry. Wala naman dahil P2 to P1, so that's my mistake. It's not actually P2 to P1, because take a look, from P2 there is no arrow going to P1. So the path is actually from P3, P1 to P3, P3 to P4, and then P4 to P1. So naara dito sa ubos, wala ko nagbasa. So the vertices P1, P3, P4, and P1 is considered to be a simple cycle. If the graph contains a cycle, so if a graph will contain any cycle, it's considered to be cyclic. I like to call it cyclic, but maybe it's better to say cyclic. You could ask Google. I'm just curious.
Cyclic.
Cyclic the agency. So cyclic, a graph is considered cyclic if it has a cycle. Otherwise, it is acyclic, meaning walay cycle. So we're almost done with the definitions. Don't worry, we're gonna reach implementations and then algorithms very soon. Let's just be a little bit patient. So let's talk about the incidence and the degree. So incidence, a node n or a vertex n, is considered to be incident to an arc. So incidence is relationship to an arc. If n is one of the two nodes in the ordered pair of nodes. So for example, I have an arc called x. The incidence is the relationship between the nodes and the arc. So that means because P1 and P2 make up that specific arc, it means that P1 is incident to arc X and P2 is incident to arc X. P3 is incident to whatever this arc is called. If I call this Y, P3 is incident to Y and P2 is incident to Y. Very easy. The degree of a node is the number of arcs that are incident to it. So, how many arcs are incident to node P1? There are 1, 2, and 3. So the degree of node P1 is 3. The in-degree of a node is the number of arcs that have it as a head. So head, let's remember what head and tail is. Your head is where your arrow is pointing to. So P2 is a head. In this case, P1 is also a head because P4 points to P1. So P1 is a head. So the in-degree of a node is the number of arcs that have n as a head. So, libog siya paminawon, pero sayon ra kaayo. How many nodes are pointing to that? How many arcs are pointing to that specific vertex? So let's say P1. Pila ka buok arrow nag-point ni P1? Di ba? Isa ra. Kanira, isa ka buok. So that means the in-degree of P1 is 1. The out-degree of a node is the number of arcs that have it as a tail. So how many arcs or pila ka buok arrow ang nag-point outside from P1? Di ba? 1, 2. They're pointing away from P1. So, in degree, pila ka buok ang nag-point padong sa node. Out degree, pila ka buok ang gi-point gikan sa node. Sayon na kaayos tanan. So, given the graph above, determine the degree, in degree, and out degree of the following nodes. I'll do number 1 for you. So, the degree of P1, I already told you, is, unsa ka na natong degree? Number of arcs. 1, 2, 3. In degree, pila ka buok node ang nagpoint or pila ka arc ang nagpoint padung ana? Isa ra ka buok. Out degree, pila ka buok iyang gipointan? Duha ka buok. Sayon na no? So let's talk about relation. Kani siya nga slide, very technical. So let's just read it and I'll dumb it down for us. So a relation R on a set A is a set of ordered pairs of elements in A. So, ang pasabot lang ana is, if you have an ordered pair of vertices X and Y is an element of a relationship R, then X is said to be related to Y in R. Nisuda na sabto, no? So, tanawon lang nato unsay pasabot ana. If X exists in A is related to Y which also exists in A, and the remainder obtained by dividing Y by X is odd, then that just means if A is equal to, or A, which is the set, contains 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, and 17, then the ordered pairs 3, 10, 5, 6, 5, 8, 6, 17, 8, 17, 10, 17 is a relation on A, such that x is less than y. Draw the digraph that expresses the given relation. So, ibaw naman taon saan pag-draw og digraph, di ba? So, let's just take a look at the results. So, 3 points to 10, 8 points to 17, 10 points to 17, 6 points to 17, 5 points to 6, 5 points to 8. Tanawon na nimo siya ang imuhang ordered pairs. So, tanawa imong ordered pairs diri ganina. 3 points to 10, 5 points to 6, 5 points to 8, 6 points to 17, 8 points to 17, 10 points to 17. Muna siya ang atong relationship. Next, weighted graph. Kani, this is very important for the next topics because this will include or this will be part of some of the algorithms that we will be talking about. So a weighted graph is essentially a graph in which a number called weight is associated with the arc. So kanina, we just talked about the arcs or the arrows pointing from a vertex going to another vertex. Now we add numbers or weights to that specific arc. So the weight from 3 to 10 is 1. The weight from 8 to 17 is 1. The weight from 10 to 17 is 7. And so on and so forth. So unsa may pasabot na to? In this specific illustration, the weight of each of the arcs is the remainder after dividing y by x. Familiar ba ni siya? It should be because kanina, that is how we describe the relationship between your arcs. So the arc from 3 to 10 is the remainder we get by dividing y by x. So unsa man si y? 10. 10 divided by 3 is 3, di ba? Pero pila ang remainder? Kaya ang remainder matong gipangita. So the actual thing is 10 modulo 3 is 1. So if you take a look, from 3 to 10, the weight is 1 because the weight of each arc is the remainder after dividing by x. Let's try another random one. 6 and 17. 17 modulo 6, that's 12, diba? 12 ang 17 divided by 6. So 6 times 2 is 12. So that's 2. So 7, ang imuhang mahitabo is 17 minus 12 is 5. 5 ang atuang remainder. Which means 6 to 17 is 5 ang weight. So kuhaon na nimo ang remainder mo na siya ang atong weight. So a labeled digraph is a digraph in which the arcs and or vertices can have associated labels which can be names, costs, or any values of any given type. So this is an example of, wala de ID, di na sila labeled kaya wala may value ilang mga arcs. So this is just an example of that. So we come to the fun part, which is representing our graphs. And there are two main representations of graphs, which is the adjacency matrix representation or the adjacency list representation, which can be done via linked list or cursor-based. We'll start with the adjacency matrix representation. So given a digraph called G, so that means we're already talking data structures here. G is considered to be a digraph, and by definition, that means G has matrices. G has vertices and edges. So, muna ang pasabot ani. Given a digraph G, which is composed of vertices and edges, and the vertices are from 0 to n minus 1, the adjacency matrix of G is essentially an n by n matrix A of booleans. So essentially, it's a 2D array of elements represented by zeros and ones, where A with index ij is considered to be true or has a value of 1 if and only if there is an arc from vertex I to vertex J. Kung naglibog mo sa pag-explain, ana, I tried to dumb it down to the best of my ability, pero ingon ana gid siya sa technical sa atong slide. So let's just live with it and let's just enjoy the illustration. So here I have an n by n matrix. Ngano 4 by 4 man na siya. So remember, I said n by n matrix. N represents the number of vertices. I have 4 vertices. Therefore, I have a matrix that is 4 by 4. Sayon ra kay no? Sunod, ngano puro 0 o 1 ang sulod sa akong matrix? That's because it's a matrix of booleans, so they can only contain 0 and 1. So we're breaking down the definition one at a time. First is n by n, so the size of your matrix depends on the number of vertices in your graph. The value inside your matrix will be zeros or ones, and whenever there is an element, so let's call this an element, the element at I or j, or the value at ij inside A is this matrix, diba? Matrix A. The value will be 1 if there is an arc from I to j. So let's take a look. From 0 to 1, there is an arc, diba? So that means from row 0 to column 1, there is an arc, so the value is 1. From 0 to 3, there is an arc, so that means from row 0 to column 3, the value is 1 because there is an arc. From 0 to 0, walay direct arc. From 0 to 2, walay arc, kay 0 man. So sa drawing, walay arrow from 0 to 2. Sunod, 1. 1 only points to 2. So that means from row 1 to column 2, there is a 1. Since there is nothing else, everything else is 0. Meaning, there is no arc from 1 to 0. 1 to 0, wala, di ba? Kaya walay 1 nag-point to 0. Walay 1 nag-point to 1, walay 1 nag-point to 3. 2 points to 3, therefore, there should be an arc or a 1 from row 2 to column 3. Ay 1. 3 points to 1, so there should be an arc from 3 to 1, which is here. And that is how you represent your digraph. 1 whenever there is an arrow or an arc going from I to J. Next, labeled adjacency matrix. So given your digraph G, which contains vertices and edges, and V contains numbers from 0, V is a set of vertices that contain numbers from 0 to n minus 1. When we say a labeled adjacency matrix, it is essentially an n by n matrix B of arc weights. So ang difference niya is, instead of just saying there is an arc going from 0 to 1, ang iyang store instead of ones, it will store the actual weight from 0 to 1. The weight of the arc from 0 to 1. So take a look at this drawing. From 0 to 1, the weight is 5. Therefore, from 0 to 1, the weight is 5. From 0 to 3, the weight is 8. 0 to 3, the weight is 8. From 1 to 2, the weight is 7. So from 1 to 2, the weight is 7. So it's exactly the same as the matrix here in our adjacency matrix, except instead of just saying it exists or there is an arc, you actually know the weights of those arcs. And why is this infinite? or let's call this infinity, but this is essentially a sentinel value. We will know in another lecture why this is relevant. So, what are the disadvantages of the adjacency matrix representation? It just means, one, for a digraph of n vertices, the storage requirement is omega to n squared, or you just say you'll be using n squared number of space even if the digraph has arcs that are fewer than n squared. So meaning, if you had 100 vertices, imagine 100 vertices, your adjacency matrix will be 100 by 100. Even if wala kay gidrawing edges, if you have only one edge, for example, or two edges lang, the space used by your data structure will still be 100 by 100. And then examining a square matrix would require O sub n squared time. Meaning, if you wanted to check each of the elements to check if there are kanang arcs going from a specific vertex to another vertex or so on, you would need to do O sub n squared, because you'll need to go through each of the vertices to actually see the relationship between different vertices and the values of their arcs. So, muna siya. It's a bit slow. So, for your exercise 4, try to construct an adjacency matrix and a labeled adjacency matrix for the following digraph. I hope you do this because in the next lectures, you will be using the adjacency matrix that you create here for one of the algorithms that I will be teaching you as well. So the next implementation, guys, so we learned about the adjacency matrix implementation or representation of your graph. Kung pangutanon ta mo, do you know how to implement this in code? Yes or no? For sure. Daghan mo ingog no, pero napod yun ay kahibaw unsaon. Daghan lang ta mo clue. It's just a two-dimensional array of what data type? Pwede integer, pero preferably Boolean. So you're essentially creating a 2D array of Booleans or a 2D array of integers. Kani? Parihara gihapon, 2D array of integers. So if you can remember how to represent a 2D array, it's essentially, you can call it int a with brackets 4 brackets 4. Ingon na graph na siya. So let's go to the adjacency list representation. So the adjacency list for any vertex I is a list in some order of all vertices adjacent to I. Ang buot pasabot ana lang is, when we represent the adjacency list for any vertex, it's just a list of vertices adjacent to that element or index. So, for example, a graph of n vertices is represented by an array declared as head of n components. The storage requirement is proportional to the sum of the number of vertices and the number of arcs. Say pasabot ana. How much storage is being used here? It depends on the number of vertices and the number of arcs. So for example, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arcs. That means because I have 5 arcs, I need to represent space equal to 5 different nodes. Because the arcs represent the nodes that are being inserted. So in the linked list representation, when there is an arc going from index n going to index m, or n to v kunway, that means from your linked list, index 0, there is an arc going to 1, and there is an arc going to 3. Mo na ang pasabot ana. So it doesn't mean that there is a path from 0 to 1 to 3. It just means there is an arc going to 1 and an arc going to 3. So mura siyang pina-list of children implementation ni trees, but this time it's representing your arcs. So here you'll see 1 points to 2, so there is an arc from 1 to 2. 1 to 2. There is an arc from 2 going to 3. There is an arc going from 2 going to 3. There is an arc from 3 going to 1, so there is an arc from 3 going to 1. Linked list representation. Sayun ra kaayo. So how do you implement this? Head is an array of linked lists such that your vertex is your index and your nodes inside that list are essentially arcs going from your head going to the specific vertices in these nodes. The cursor or the adjacency list representation. Kani mo'y medyo confusing for some people, but I will teach you it nonetheless. So this is just the cursor-based representation wherein your head is an array of indices and you have a separate array which contains your adjacency list representation. So take for example, 0 has an arc to 1 and is an arc to 3. So how do I represent this as a cursor representation? It just means it's something similar to this. 0 points to index 0, and that means it's adjacent to the value of 1. 1 is adjacent to 3, and because there is no more further adjacency, we go to negative 1. Next, 1. 1 is adjacent to whatever is in index 3. So 1 is adjacent to 2. If I go to the next element, I get negative 1, meaning there is no more adjacent value to 1. So going back, 0 is adjacent to the value in index 0, which is 1. If I increment and it's not yet a negative 1, that just means that I am also adjacent to this value, which is 3. So 0 is adjacent to 1 and 3. 1 is adjacent to whatever is in index 3, which is 2. So 1 is adjacent to 2. If I increment, I get a negative 1, so meaning no more adjacent elements. So I go to 2. 2 is adjacent to the value in index 5, which is 3. Increment ko, there's no more other values adjacent to 2. 3 is adjacent, or 3 has an arc going to index 1. So 3 has an arc to the value in index 7, which is 1. And no more follow because it goes to a negative 1. So it's essentially start at the index where your head is pointing to and iterate until you reach a negative 1. That tells you what specific vertices your index has an arc to. Very easy. So that is the end of our lecture for digraphs. In the following lectures, I will be teaching you the different algorithms that are related to our graphs. So please stay tuned. Hopefully this was easy for you guys to digest and I wasn't going too fast. But if I was, please do feel free to ask me some questions. Put it on our chat so that other students or your classmates are able to appreciate it as well and learn something from your questions. So that's it for this lecture. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you and goodbye.